You want to build Escoffier? I got you. So let's use Shunhe as an example. Since Escoffier is going to be a polearm character, let's use the polearm character Shunhe as an example here. These are the weapons I would personally put on Escoffier. So for Escoffier, you generally want to have any type of crit rate or crit damage 5-star weapon. So something like Crimson Moon or Primary Jadewing Spear would work pretty well, or even better if you have the Staff of Homa or her best in slot. And main weapon that she uses, her signature weapon, the Symphonist in Scent. Of course, that's going to be her best weapon, but any one that has crit rate or crit damage is actually going to be pretty good for you because she does do a lot of damage. But let's say you don't have any 5-star polearms, you only have 4-star stuff. Don't worry, event weapons actually work pretty well as well. Like if you played the event and got this weapon, this is actually a pretty good weapon for her, and I would personally use because it's R5, gives you increase in attack as well as gives you energy recharge, which is perfect. You can burst more often and get that healing. Now there are other options, of course, the Following Lance being a very easy to get and a staple for many polearm characters that have support capabilities. So get energy recharge, get some extra particles, and you're good to go. There are other weapons I'm sure you guys could use, like the crit rate weapons that you get from the Battle Pass. That's pretty good, or even the Black Cliff Pole, though I do not recommend the Black Cliff Pole that much. The other event weapon, if you guys played that event, is also okay. Generally, I would stick to what I have mentioned. For the artifacts are very simple. Okay? Personally, I would use the Golden Troop set. This is going to be absolute best option. Gonna give you an increase in elemental skill damage, and it gives so much of it too. So you get, I think, a 75% increase in elemental skill damage, and it's really powerful, really easy to use, and you probably already have a few of these lying around anyway, and I highly suggest you guys do that. If you guys want the stats, it's going to be for the sands you want attack percentage, and for the circlet you want crit rate or crit damage depending on what you have on your polearm or your weapon, right? So if you're running a crit rate weapon, go for a crit damage mask. If you're running a crit damage weapon, go for a crit rate mask. Very simple. Now if you don't have any of those, and maybe you're kind of just stuck on an attack percentage, should work, but it's not going to be that great. Now for your goblet, I would say go for an cryo damage goblet, but an attack percentage goblet would work just as well, because going for an attack percentage goblet will give you more healing, but going for a cryo damage would just give you more damage with the elemental skill. For your substats, you mainly want to have energy recharge so you can burst a lot. You're going to need the healing, because if you're going to use a Furina in your team, you're going to need a lot of healing. So energy recharge is very important. The second one, I would say maybe crit rate or elemental mastery or crit damage. And yeah, that's that. Those are the substat priorities that I would put. Of course, attack percentage would be nice. Any type of defense or whatever is very much useless, and you don't want any of that. Or HP percentage, you just don't want that. Of course, for the talents, you're going to be mainly focusing on the elemental skill as well as elemental burst. Your normal attacks are going to be pretty much useless, so there is that. And if you want to make use of your Escoffier, you want to be at least 80 out of 90, so you can have the maximum amount of output and the highest level of talents, which is going to be pretty simple. In terms of the teams, you probably want to run a freeze team. So let's say the example on the right is a freeze team. It's actually pretty viable. You'd have Escoffier instead of Zhangyan here, and then Xingqiu or Yelan. Any Hydro sub DPS would be pretty applicable here. Shunhe is good, so it can increase some attack, increase cryo buff, and there is some cryo shred. I'm not sure if it goes coincide with the shred that you might get from Escoffier, but we're gonna have to test that one out. And then you have Furina. Furina is going to be the anchor of the team. It's going to help you deal way more damage, and it's going to apply sub DPS with the Hydro, which is very important. Now this is just a general team. You can, obviously switch it up and have different types. So let's say you want to add in animal character, you can instead of Shunhe. Let's say you want to use Kazuha. Kazuha is going to be pretty good. You get the Viridescent Shred, you get the increase of elemental damage, right? The only problem with this is that you would get a much less resistance shred with your team, is pretty unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? But let's say you want to have a cryo main damage dealer. You want to use Ayaka, or maybe you want to use Ayato or Raithesli, or whoever it is that you want to use as your damage dealer. This would be pretty good. So you'd have them, you have a sub DPS, and then you would have Escoffier. Escoffier is going to be it's going to do a lot of freezing. And then Furina. I would say Furina is a very big staple in these freeze teams, especially for how much value she brings, right? But let's say you do not have a Furina, no worries. You can have any type of character that might be in this spot, maybe a healer or something like that. You do not need those, because now you're taking out Furina. You can replace them with maybe a shielder, maybe even Diona, maybe even Sidlolly or something like that. Nivelette is also so back. You can have Nivelette and Shenhe and Escoffier, and then you can have Furina as another character, and this would be a pretty fun team to have, pretty easy to use team too. Escoffier is going to do so much of the sub DPS stuff. Shenhe is going to give you a little bit of an attack buff, which is really nice. The only problem is that Shenhe is only going to give you a little bit of a buff to your Escoffier, and Nivelette is not going to benefit too much from it. So you want purely just Nivelette, all damage. Of course, Furina is going to do that for you. And instead of Shenhe, you can have an animal character. And yeah, it's going to be pretty much all the freeze teams that I can think of. But let's say you don't want to use freeze, you want to use some sort of melt team or something like that. Here would be just an example. You can have someone like Hu Tao or Aldakino, and then you would have Xing Choke just to do some sub CPS damage, Escoffier, and then you would have Furina. Of course, Furina again is an anchor, helps you deal more damage, and with Hu Tao kind of works really well because you want Hu Tao to be low HP, which is really cool. And then if you get, low at some point, you can just burst with Hu Tao and you're done. So yeah, there is that. Pretty good stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys got something out of this, if you guys did, let me know in the comments. How are you going to build your Escoffier? Of course, you also can run your Escoffier with something like a Noblesse or Tenacity of the Millith. Tenacity of the Millith would be pretty good if you want purely just support stuff. That would be pretty okay as well, and you give a attack percentage, which is really nice. So yeah, if you guys got something out of this, let me know in the comments. How are you going to build your Escoffier? Let me know in the comments. Very soon. Goodbye.